and the extended family, which we all are, of Marhum Majlis Islam wal Muslimin, Molana Asad Jaffri. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate his status, give him a place in the proximity of Ahl-e-Bait alayhi salatu wassalam. Although difficult, but we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give sabr to the bereaved family for this great loss, not just for them, but for the entire North American Shia communities. Before I get into a very brief discussion that I have today, I wanted to, as all of you presented and talked about your personal experiences with Marhum. Molana Asad Jaffri, many ahadith that were recited by the scholars who were present here and those who presented via video message, they shared this hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen where Khalid bin Nas live amongst the people in a way that when you are with them, they want your company. And of course, when you leave them, they weep over you. Indeed, many eyes were weeping on that unfortunate day when we heard the news of him passing away. I'll tell you what I was going to do on that day. It was a Sunday, and usually on Sundays I come here to Sunday school. After Salatul Fajr, I was agreeing with many of the community members and the brothers whom I grew up with as well. Many who know me since my teenage years. They asked me and they convinced me, Molana, you gotta come to paintball with us. So I agreed. I even got someone to substitute for me here at Sunday school. Of course, I teach 2 classes, someone needed to fill in for me. All was set. I was already here in the masjid. They were all supposed to meet here and go together. Carpool, hour and a half away from here. 8 a.m., I come outside, they're all waiting for others so that everybody gathers and we get in the car and we go. I'm all geared up, my jeans and everything else so that I'm prepared for that program. I don't have to recite a majlis over there. I just want to be with them, just like how Molana Asad was with youngsters, playing basketball with them, doing things that they would enjoy. It was a little bit drizzly that day. It was drizzly, and for some reason, at around 8:30, when we were getting ready to leave, I said to Ali over here that, I don't feel like going. And of course, the commitment for going to this program was made a month ago. Sheikh Bilal was also supposed to join us. He bailed out last minute as well because he had some other commitments. But he told me right away, don't go. You don't have to. You don't feel like, don't go. Right away, he gave me the consent that sure, it's okay if you don't want to go. I felt bad, but at the same time, I just didn't feel like going. I'm not saying there was some sort of divine revelation that was coming on to me. No, I'm not claiming it. I have witnesses over here. I drove back home, didn't even come for Sunday school because I had a substitute. Why would I come back? Let me rest out this one Sunday. 10, 15, 10, 12, I get a text message. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. Did you hear? What do I do? First thing, as somebody was saying, start calling people. I called Molana Samir. He picked up the phone right away after the first bell. I said, how's it going? He's like, all right. I said, is there news? He said, yes, sadly there is. He confirmed. Just couldn't believe it. Had I gone to that program, I would have been 2 hours away from here. What enjoyment? None. stuck, then I have to now come back 2 hours later because the program is going on over there. We would have gotten back at 2, 3 p.m. There I started making plans. How can I get to Toronto? Unfortunately, with few of us who were able to catch a flight later that day, got to Toronto and we were able to take part in the janazah. There's a riwayat that says, Mautul Alim, Mautul Alam. Now there's some ahadith which just cannot be translated. Marhum Molana Asad was a very powerful speaker. Although he was a couple of years older than me, he entered in the year, I think 2004, 2003, 2004. I had already been home since 2000. And so I met him at the house where he used to live. We had many interactions. We didn't have any classes together because 2006 I came back. And he was still there till 2013, I believe. And the reason he went late, as you would say, although he was older than me, because he had already established himself over here with his career. Graduated with a degree, started working for a prestigious organization, company, living a life, as you would say, although American dream. And then I heard his older brother say this, that he said to him that, I have a call. I don't think this is what I'm meant for. I don't think this is what I am supposed to be doing. He left all of that to go to what? Home. And start studying. And study did he well. Now, of course, he knew that after he comes back, he would not probably have the similar life. I'm not saying he was living a very luxurious life. He was probably always a very balanced individual before becoming a scholar. But he knew that these would be the challenges. But he embraced those challenges. That's why there's some ahadith you can't translate. Mautul alim, mautul alam. मुझे नहीं मालूम इसका तर्जुमा क्या होगा. आलिम की मौत दुनिया की मौत है. Death of an alim is the death of a universe. That's the best I can do. If there is someone who fits this criteria, it's Molana Asad Jaffri. His compassion, his delivery, his ability to communicate the message. We've all been trying. We've all been trying. For the past 18 years, I've been trying. But then there are certain speakers who really grab your attention, who can really relate to you. When they speak, they touch your heart in an instant. And that was this individual. Another hadith which says, Mawdul alim hulmatun fil Islam la yasudduha shay'un. When a scholar dies, it leaves a crack in the religion of Islam that can never be repaired. While we can try to repair this crack that has happened, it is nearly impossible. Another feature of his that I can relate to personally. Of course, I had a very fond relationship with him ever since he had been coming to New Jersey. And Betul Qaim felt that they don't need a resident alim because of his presence. Now that he's gone, maybe they'll think about it. That Molana was such a humble individual. Humbleness in his guftar, in his raftar. When he would speak, you could see humility and humbleness. When he would talk to you, you can see that humbleness. I'll share a couple of examples of his humbleness. 2 occasions, and I'm glad that I have kept those messages saved, those voice notes. You change the phone, messages are lost and whatnot. I was able to keep them and save them. I have them both. First, when my father passed away, and 2 years ago, Molana sent me a voice note. I wanted to play that when I was there at the janaza, but of course it was not appropriate. I played it for some of the friends. I think that voice note would be perfect for his own kids. The way he spoke to me, giving me condolences of losing a father who was an alim. All the words that he said in that voice note fit perfectly on him. How he was larger than life and alim. And the second one, more recently, when we all took pictures standing over here. I'm sure all of you remember. It was Ghadir last year. He was doing a camp at Bethel Qaim. Dr. Asad asked him to recite Jashan over here for Ghadir. I happened to be in town as well. But because he was in town, we invited him. He saw the flyer and he sees both of our pictures on it, mine and his. Right away he sends me another voice note. With all the alqabat and respects and everything. I said he was a couple of years older than me, but the respect that he showed. He said, Sayyid, had I known that you were in town, I would have never accepted to speak at the Jashan. And you can relate to this, the way he would speak and throw in the Urdu words. I would much rather istifada from your speech. This is exactly what he said. I would much rather istifada from your speech. Istifada means to benefit. And, had I known I was here, this and that, almost. I responded by saying, Molana, don't undermine your position. I may be the resident alim over here, but you are beloved by this community. Kids look up to you. Similarly, elders look up to you. You are not just labeled, and shouldn't be labeled as a Molana for the youngsters, no. He was alim for everyone. Youngsters and elders alike. All of those who are older, of course, older than him, looked up to him, or he looked up to you as a fatherly figure, because someone who lost his father at a young age. I can actually relate to Haydar over here. Ali and Haydar. Ali and Abbas. Look at the names the father chose. Asad, Ali and Abbas. Ali is also Asad and Abbas is also Asad. Ali ka lakab means Asad hai aur Abbas to hai hi Asad. That I lost a brother when I was young. You lost a brother when you were young. You lost your father. I lost my father as well. I can completely relate to you. Every single thing that you're going through, I can absolutely relate. Not until you go through this pain, you cannot understand and fathom and comprehend what it is to lose an older brother, what it is to lose a father. Especially if they were ulama, they were alim-e-Deen, and they had that impact on you. We've only seen Molana Asad's, character as a Molana, but they have seen his character as a family man, as a brother. The day-to-day, although he related to all of us as a brother as well, but what they have been through. So indeed, his loss is something which can never be replaced. I recited this ayat for you, just for tabarruk. I'm not going to take too much of your time. That kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. When his demise, so many of his clips came about. And when he speaks about these things, and I'm sure he addressed hundreds and thousands of Isana Sawab Majalis, and these words are so true, that every soul must taste the agony of death. And then you will be brought back to us. This is true for all of us. that we're all going to go through this process because we've seen death all around us. We realize and we understand who better than those who belong to this maktab to understand what death and the reality of death is. But don't think death is annihilation. Death is a transition from this life to that life. Death is something which is not a loss. You know how many different aspects, now I'm not saying that this loss is definitely something which we all feel dearly. But the transition that we all have to go through. Yes, I can't say these words to his, wife and his kids. That he's at a better place. Or he's in the Jawar of Masumeen. Those things, although being muhibban Ahl-e-Bait, will give them some condolence. Provide some comfort to them. But at the end of the day, when young kids look up, that fatherly figure that I used to go to school, Sunday school with, that I used to attend madrasa with, that I used to drive around with, that I would climb on his back and shower that love and mercy, that figure is no longer there. You understand death when it comes at an older age. Someone will live for 80 years, 85 years, 90 years. But someone young as him, it's just difficult to fathom. And then you look at as well that there are so many people. Definitely he was an alim and a scholar, a very pious individual for that matter. Muttaqi and parhezgar for that matter. And that was not just through his words, as the brother shared. He didn't just talk the talk, he walked them. He implemented those things in his actions. We sit here and we give a lot of advices, but I don't think I implement all those advices on myself. But if there was one individual who did everything that he said himself, was this marhum Molana Asad Jaffri. Kind of like this book that all of us have at home, Mafatihul Janab, which has hundreds and thousands of dua in it. The author, Sheikh Abbas Qummi, he said, I was afraid how Allah will deal with me, that throughout my life I had to only lie once, that too because of maslahat. Look at the modesty. He said, I'm afraid of the hellfire because I lied only once in my life, that too because of maslahat. A person like me who lies, habitually, Marhum Sheikh Abbas Qummi saying once he lied in his life and he's fearful of Qayamat. You know what he writes on the Muqaddimah of this book? He didn't write this book so that you and I will scratch our heads and say, well, how many amal are there to do? He wrote in the Muqaddimah that I practiced every single thing that is mentioned in this book before I gave it out to public. So nobody can tomorrow say, Maulana, you compiled this book, mashallah, from the kalam of Aimma al-Athar, which has amal for every single day. Have you done it yourself? Go read the Muqaddimah. He said, I did every single thing myself before I asked people to go ahead and do it. That is a true character of an alim, and that fits absolutely with marhum as well. As I said, I'm not going to take too much of your time. Although, as somebody recited the Masaib of Hazrat Abbas, which are befitting. We as friends in ulama group, although I'm a talib ilm, we learn from each other. I may not have, admitted it to him, but I'll say it to him right now. And by the way, whatever you said, he was nodding. You would say something and when you would look at his face as approval, you hear a nod out of him. Whatever you said, he was nodding up there. I learned from him as well. I learned a lot of things from him. Not just from his character, but from his speech as well. Now, we don't get time to listen to other scholars' speeches, but he is someone that I can admit that I have listened to. Especially, not just this past Muharram that he recited at in Bathurst, right? Asad Jaffri, JCC. Not just this year, many years ago. I think he recited at Bethel Qaim, and he did the Masayib of Hazrat Ali Akbar. Since then, I started reciting Masayib of Hazrat Ali Akbar. Masayib of Hazrat Ali Akbar. Since then, I started reciting the Masayib of Hazrat Ali Akbar, similar to how Molana would present. I never got a chance to say that to him. I duplicated and copied what he said exactly because it's so heart-wrenching, the way he presented it. That's what I wanted to do today. I wanted to recite the Masayib of Hazrat Ali Akbar. I'll try to present it the way he did. You know, mastering the Masayib in English, if there was someone, it was him. Bringing that grief and huzn in English language. A lot of times we get this from people, Molana, English mein Masayib maza nahi hai. But there are certain people who have that control and grasp over how to be able to bring that Masayib to life, regardless of what language they were reciting in. So I wanted to share, and I'll try my best to duplicate and imitate the Masayib that Marhum recited many years ago, the way he would recite it. Of course, when we think about our loss, we feel sad. But the moment we think about the loss of Sayyidul Shuhada, we forget our loss. We face a musibat, we cry and we weep. But you know what we do when we face a musibat or after a loss? We do majlis of Sayyidul Shuhada. With the majlis of Sayyidul Shuhada, we forget what we have lost. Now we're not forgetting Molana, but for a moment, everyone's sitting over here, you'll forget that you're here for his majlis, because you'll be so much focused into the Masayib of Hazrat Ali Akbar. You won't even realize, well, why am I even here? When you start hearing those Masayib which brings the tears to you and the calamity as it unfolds, because you've heard it many times, and every time you hear it, it brings the same emotions to you. Worth mentioning, I heard Marhum Molana Asad Jaffri. He recited the soyem majlis for my brother back in 2003. Many of you were present. He too recited the Masayib of Hazrat Ali Akbar. And he said one thing. He said there's this dual effect of the Masayib of Hazrat Ali Akbar. ये बात मैं उर्दू में कह दूँ, ठीक है, उन्होंने उर्दू में कही थी कि हज़रत अली अकबर के मसाइब के दो तरह के आसार हैं जो मुर्तबित होते हैं, मुतरत्तिब होते हैं। एक ऐसे मसाइब हैं हज़रत अली अकबर के कि अगर किसी ना आशना को भी सुना दो ना, तो उसका दिल उभर आएगा और आंखों से आंसू निकल आएंगे। ना आशना, जिसको मजहब से कोई ताल्लुक नहीं है, दीन का पता नहीं है, शियत और अहले-बैत से ताल्लुक भी ना हो, उसको अगर तुम हज़रत अली अकबर के मसाइब पढ़ के सुना दो तो वो भी रोने लगेगा। और फिर उसका दूसरा असर उन्होंने क्या बताया असर? उसका दूसरा असर ये है कि अगर किसी बाप को हज़रत अली अकबर के मसाइब सुना दो तो उसके दिल का मुताबा हो जाएगा, वो भूल जाएगा कि मेरा बेटा भी खो गया है, मेरा बेटा भी मर गया है। ये दो आसार हैं हज़रत अली अकबर के मसाइब। I'll keep the Masayib in English, just so that I can imitate a little bit Molana Asad Jaffri. He would begin with Adhan Ali Akbar. That every father feels proud when their son achieves something. When they see their son doing something which everyone's appreciating, fathers feel what? Pride. They're full of pride. Imam Hussein hears his son recite the Adhan on the day of Ashur, Subh Ashur. He must be feeling proud that my son is given adhan. But you ask Imam al-Hussein, what is about to happen and unfold with your son? This is the last time you are hearing adhan Ali Akbar. The day passes by. There comes a time when Ali Akbar comes to his father. Oh father, do I have your permission to go to Maqtal? Imam Hussein, without any hesitation, says, Taqaddam waladi. Go on, my son. But before you go to the Khaymagah and bid farewell to your Pupi Amma. Ali Akbar would come running to the Khayma, bidding farewell to Pupi Amma and all the other ladies that are there. Hamid ibn Muslim, the Ravi, narrates that I see that every time, as soon as Ali Akbar went inside the tent, the veil and the curtain would be lifted, and then it would be brought down. It would be lifted, and then it would be brought down. This happened a few times. It must have been that Ali Akbar wanted to exit, and someone would pull him back in. This happened a few times, and eventually Ali Akbar was able to come out. He was able to bid farewell to his aunts, and he comes to Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein mounts him onto the horse. Now, there are two ways of mounting someone on the horse. You put your foot down and you roll your knee like this and have them stand on your knee to climb onto the horse. Or you put your hands like this and have them put their feet on your hands, and then you make them mount the horse. I don't know how Imam Hussein would have mounted Hazrat Ali, but it wouldn't have mattered. Imam mounted him onto the horse and he said only this to him, oh my son, as you go and make your way towards the Maqtal, keep looking back. Ali Akbar, who was in this josh to go and strike the enemy, he forgot the instructions of his father. But as soon as he started moving towards Maqtal, he hears someone stumbling behind him, only to see that his old father, a 57-year-old father of his, is stumbling and coming toward him. He says, and he stops, he comes down, and he says, oh Baba, we had already bid farewell. Why is it that you come after me? Imam responded, oh Akbar, only if you were Sahib Awlad. Only if you were Sahib Awlad, you would not have asked this question. Oh Ali Akbar, he goes towards Maqtal. Imam Hussein bids farewell to his son. He arrives in Maqtal. He performs the jihad. He announces himself. And then he comes back to Mawla. He comes back. Molana would say at this point, when a child comes to you and he asks you for something, he asks for a toy, you say that I'll get it to you later. He asks for another thing, you say I'll give it to you later. Things that you don't want him to have, you will say I'll give it to you later. But imagine if your son asks you for water. You would drop everything that you were doing and you go get water for him. But Ali Akbar is asking, Baba, is there any water? Hussein did not respond. Oh my son, go back and do khidmah a little bit more. You will be provided by your old grandfather. Saqiya Kausar will serve you. Ali Akbar comes back. Ali Akbar aate hain. Maqtal ka dumara rukh करते हैं. सरसाद कहता है अब इस जवान को जाने नहीं देना, तमाम जानिब से घेर लो. अरे जिसके हाथ में पत्थर था उसने पत्थर मारा, जिसके हाथ में तीर था उसने तीर चलाया, जिसके हाथ में खंजर था उसने खंजर मारा. Everybody struck him from all directions, and a little bit later there was this one Shaqi who came around the back of Ali Akbar. He struck him with a dagger from his bag and broke the handle off. He broke the handle off and the dagger remained inside. You know how every shaheed, when they would fall, they would say Hussein, his son Ali Akbar responded differently. Alayka minni salam, ya abata. He didn't want his father to come. He didn't want to trouble his father anymore. So he said, Alayka minni salam, ya abata. Imam Hussein hears this. He comes running toward Ali Akbar. He grabs a hold of him and he sees, he tries to wipe his face off. Ali Akbar says, oh Baba, there's nothing on the face, but my body is bleeding. Blood is gushing out of my chest. Hussein looks at the parchi. जो पर्ची गई थी अली अकबर के सीने में, हुसैन ने निकालना चाहिए मगर बड़ी मुश्किल हुई। इमाम हुसैन ने at that moment he put his lap, he put his knee onto the chest of Ali Akbar. He turned him toward Najaf and he said, oh Ali, oh Baba, hey Baba, खैबर का दरबार ऐसा था जब आजाद के सीने से बच्ची سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون